Hello, I'm James Ezimoha. Welcome to African News, where we'll bring you the latest updates from across the African continent. Here are your headlines. Former African leaders call for urgent debt relief and warn of crippling external debt levels. Several killed, more than 60 wounded after explosions hit a rebel rally in eastern Congo. Rwanda's foreign minister accuses the UN Human Rights Council of double standards with the Eastern Congo conflict. Several people were killed and over 60 wounded after explosions hit a rebel rally in Eastern Congo. Witnesses say grenades were thrown into the crowd.
Panic spread in Bukavu as explosions disrupted a mass rally held by rebel leader Corneille Nangaa. Witnesses say grenades were hurled into the crowd, causing chaos and casualties. Nangaa accused President Felix Tshisekedi of ordering the attack, though he provided no evidence. The government has not yet responded. The incident comes as tensions rise over accusations that Rwanda is backing Nangaa's M23 rebels, a claim Rwanda denies. One of the injured victims describes the moment of the blast.
A plastic bag was thrown in front of us over there. We didn't know what was inside. We were just looking at it. Suddenly, there was an explosion. Poof! We fell to the ground and ran away. After about 20 or 25 meters, we heard a second explosion. It was loud, again over there. I went to a clinic to wash my face. After receiving first aid there, we were transferred here to the Provincial General Referral Hospital. Where I'm most injured is here, at the shoulder. I got hit in a few places where shrapnel struck me. It was from a grenade.
Hospital officials confirm multiple fatalities and over 60 injuries as the region braces for further unrest.
Rwanda's foreign minister has accused the UN Human Rights Council of double standards over its handling of the conflict in eastern Congo. He urged an impartial investigation into reported rights violation. Speaking in Geneva, Foreign Minister Olivier Nduhungirehe questioned the Council's silence on attacks against Tutsi communities in Congo. His remarks come as Rwanda-backed M23 rebels seize major cities, displacing 500,000 people since January. The U.S. has imposed sanctions on a top Rwandan official over alleged ties to the rebels, while Britain has paused some aid and demanded Rwanda withdraw its troops from Congo. Kigali denies backing M23, insisting its forces act in self-defense.
All these horrors are well documented and form an alarming pattern. In the last trimester of 2024 alone, the United Nations reported that DRC security organs were responsible of more than 30% of human rights violations in conflict zones. Under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all rights and all human beings are equal. Yet a double standard is evident in the treatment of Tutsi communities in Congo. How can this Council remain silent in the face of such injustice? In light of this worrying situation, Rwanda calls on the Human Rights Council to take immediate and decisive action to halt these persecutions. The suffering of these people cannot be tolerated any longer. Ethnic politics has no place in our region. As its name indicates, we hope that the recently established fact-finding mission on DRC will conduct impartial investigations into these abuses based on facts, the abuses which are currently being politicized by the DRC government with the support of countries and organizations holding vested interests in the region.
Former African leaders are calling for urgent debt relief, warning that rising external debt is crippling poor nations. Speaking at a G20 finance meeting in Cape Town, they pushed for a new collective plan to ease financial pressures.
8 former African heads of state are demanding a new debt relief initiative to help struggling economies. The leaders say excessive debt burdens are draining resources from critical development projects. They propose a plan similar to the 1990s highly indebted poor countries program, which allowed collective negotiations with creditors. Former Malawian President Joyce Banda says Africa is not looking for charity, but needs relief to build stronger economies.
That's the more reason why this initiative should move aggressively with the same countries, because African countries are saying, we're not looking for charity. We understand and we are ready to fight, to build our capacities in our countries, to move our economies. But for that to happen, we need a debt relief first.
Former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete warns that without action, development will suffer.
The situation is dire. The situation is getting worse. And if we don't intervene now in time, the situation may get even worse. These countries will be completely crippled and they won't do much for the growth and development of their country. All that they'll be doing is collect revenue and pay service the debt. That time the development will be stifled.
The call for debt relief comes amid growing concerns over global aid cuts. The United Nations Development Programme called for a similar deal on Tuesday, warning a worsening debt crisis among developing nations was draining their economies of much-needed liquidity.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has arrived in Somalia for talks with President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud following months of tensions over Ethiopia's Somaliland deal. Relations between Ethiopia and Somalia soared in January after Ethiopia announced plans to lease a stretch of Somaliland's coastline in exchange for possible recognition of its independence. Somalia accused Ethiopia of violating its sovereignty and strengthened ties with its rivals. On Thursday, Mogadishu airport was hit by a mortar shell shortly before Abiy's arrival. Both nations previously agreed in December to resolve the disputes through talks, ensuring Ethiopia secure access to the sea. The UN Human Rights Chief warns of a growing risk of mass starvation in Sudan as the war escalates. Volker Turk told the Human Rights Council that the country is on the verge of further chaos. His warning comes after the UN halted food aid in North Darfur due to escalating violence. War between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces has already displaced millions, and famine conditions have been reported in at least 5 locations. Turk also warned that RSF's attempt to establish governing authority could deepen divisions. Meantime, reports say both sides continue receiving advanced weapons from outside Sudan, fueling the conflict.
Sudan is a powder keg on the verge of a further explosion into chaos and at increasing risk of atrocity crimes and mass deaths from famine. Despite continued mediation efforts, Sudan is at a political stalemate while the bloodshed continues unabated. The danger of escalation has never been higher. Recent moves towards establishing a governing authority in areas under RSF control are likely to further entrench divisions and the risk of continued hostilities. Since the armed conflict began in 2023, a devastating human rights crisis has generated the world's largest humanitarian catastrophe. More than 600,000 people are on the brink of starvation. Famine is reported to have taken hold in 5 areas, including some displacement camp in North Darfur, where the World Food Programme has just been forced to suspend its life-saving operations due to intense fighting. 5 more areas could face famine in the next 3 months, and a further 17 are at risk. My own staff have heard harrowing testimonies of death from starvation in Khartoum and Omdurman.
In Tunisia's Nabil district, artisans are fighting to keep the ancient craft of mat weaving alive. But with few young people taking up the trade, the tradition faces an uncertain future.
Mat weaving was once a key part of Nabil's identity, but today, only a few artisans continue the craft. Using golden rush strands, they weave mats mainly for mosques. The process starts with harvesting and drying the rush, followed by sorting and weaving on looms. But with demand declining and younger generations looking elsewhere, weavers fear the tradition may disappear. Jalel Matmati, a lifelong mat weaver, says the craft is more than just a job, it's a part of his identity.
This craft is entirely my roots. I am a Nabli rush mat weaver. I love it even though it's tiring, even when there's no money, I love it. When I stay here and work on pieces like this, and when someone prays on it, I am happy.
Some younger artisans, like Zeid Shaledi, are still committed to preserving the craft.
I do this work out of love because this is our country's history. When women and men pass by the front of the workshop, they smell the scent of the rush and say it reminds them of the smell of their fathers. When we were small, we were raised on the mat. My father would weave while I played behind him, and now I weave while my daughters play behind me.
The artisans have taken the craft to a new level by incorporating modern techniques and artistic flair. While still honoring traditional methods, expanding the craft to include not just prayer mats, but also decorative items such as chairs, baskets, and home decorative pieces ensures its survival and relevance.
That's all we have today on Africa News. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.